Welcome in everyone, John here. I'm the lead maintainer of the open source Latterly.io, which is a platform that will help software engineers learn to code and land your first or next programming role. Mostly tailored to software engineers, but lots of interview prep advice that applies to knowledge workers and folks in tech more broadly across job families, data engineer, data analyst, data scientist, and so on. Today we are working on retrieval augmented generation, the Aria's tail RAG, that includes two RAGs. One is a classic RAG and one is an agentic RAG using the Google ADK, Agent Development Kit. And currently we are focused on the ADK leg of the project. And here we have the Aria's tail RAG cloned down, backend, database, front end are set up. And we have successfully ingested and indexed 175 documents, with the source originally being this CSV script. So backend scripts source.csv. There is a cleaning script which creates the cleaned source from the source. And then there is ingest data, which uploads the clean source, and create embeddings, which is the third step there. So the data is cleaned, ingested, and then converted to a vector embedding with the Google text embedding 004 model. So it's a model-specific embedding. All right, and then we're using the local Supabase Postgres instance within a container is where that's being saved. Okay, so that's, you can see, go back to parts 1 and 2 to see how we did all that. Now we are going to connect the backend, again, focusing on the agent integration. All right, so we have this agent script, and we have a kind of like mock stub tool here called create horse fact, which if you go to utils is kind of like a micro RAG, so it just has an in-memory facts list of length 3, and it just returns this fact every time. We would like this to be the Aria's tail RAG tool. So first step, let's change the import. All right, so it's no longer an alias. We're gonna rename this horse fact thing to really be a RAG tool. And now we need to get to work. Now this thing needs to connect to the database and retrieve those vector embeddings that are nearest in vector space. So vector space is going to be a way to take letters and create a geometric distance, and then we can measure which words are close together, and this helps communicate meaning, because when you're using the same words, you're like, or similar sentences, and characters, this includes numbers and periods and like apostrophes and other characters that may not be letters, but you can see kind of like the sentence similarity. And so that helps whenever we are asking a question to the language model. It's going to go find splits, and in our case those splits are going to be CSV rows, splits which seem similar to the prompt. So I might ask a question, I might say, hey, let's talk about the different character classes in Aria's tail. Remember that Aria's tail RAG is like a game encyclopedia. And so if I say, hey, let's talk about like character classes in Aria's tail, then it's going to find maybe some splits that include the word character, or probably these splits that have to do with classes. And it'll probably downweight and ignore items, places, organizations. So we get more relevant sections of context than the alternative non-RAG approach, where we just took all the data and put it in the context model. And that would be a diluted, saturated context with irrelevant information. So that's why we expect the splits to have more relevant and accurate responses. Does that all make sense? Major Applewhite on TikTok. What's up, bro? Thanks for being here. Okay, so let's try to do this. I'm gonna pull up the Google ADK. I can actually just ask Gemini to go ahead, and I'm using Gemini 2.5 Pro. Let's now update def. What's going on here? Aria's tail RAG tool. I'll put it in a backtick to signify that it's a code literal. Let's now update def Aria's tail RAG tool to retrieve relevant vector embeddings for splits for our chat. And I'll also make it aware of the agent. I'll say, notice how this tool is integrated to the agent. Let me know if we should integrate the RAG another way, some other way, besides a RAG as a tool. So here I'm doing a RAG as a tool, but I'm going to tell the language model it can feel free to push back if we want to connect the RAG in a different way. So while it's doing that, I'm going to pull open the Google ADK docs. Okay, and we will look for RAG, so good old-fashioned manual search. So ingestion into memory could be one way to create a RAG. That would be fine. So in that case, we might use memory instead of a tool, or we could use them together actually. So this is a multi-memory agent, which has an in-memory service. So it's going to search memory. This would be where the retrieval occurs in this case. Okay, interesting. So there's a Vertex AI memory bank service. Oh, this thing is searching both memories. But I only see one of them used. Yeah, that looks weird to me. Robin Meraki says you're in the formation program. Not currently, but I did previously use it and I really liked it. Also if you go to Latterly Perks, there's a discount. Latterly.io/perks. You can see all kinds of discounts, but one would be $300 off formation. So if you're doing interview prep, check it out. You get unlimited practice interviews, which is super, super helpful. All kinds of round types, lead code, behavioral, and so on. So really good interview prep approach there. All right, let's see what Cursor's cooked up in the meantime. RAG as a tool, you brought up two excellent points, how to implement RAG search and whether integrating it as a tool is the right architecture. Integrating RAG as a tool is an excellent approach. Thanks. We'll need to create a new migration, okay? So here we're in the database, we're going to run npx new. I'll do this manually. I'm on a Windows machine, so Cursor defaults to PowerShell, and it has a lot of issues doing stuff in PowerShell. I'm using git bash and contrast, and so I will just print that the SQL file is now ready. Okay, so here's the empty file, and then Cursor populates it. We're going to use a similarity search by float, so the vector will be converted into a float for matching purposes. I'm ready to proceed once you've reset the database. So we're going to need to reset the database, npx supabase db reset. So that'll take a minute. I'm only seeing comments on TikTok so far. So YouTube is a little bit quiet. You might be able to go to YouTube instead of TikTok and it might give you a better view of the screen. I'm not sure. Or maybe TikTok's fine. Okay, so let's see what other options there are. So if I look for RAG, I only found the one. But if I look for retrieval augmented, then I see a built-in tool. Look at that. Maybe we should use this one. So it's still a tool approach, but this is a built-in tool. That would be great. Well, this allows web searches. That's not quite what I'm looking for. So this could just be a Google ADK documentation problem. Let me ask chat. Does Claude Code have a chat feature like Cursor? I don't know. I don't use Claude Code much. It interacts with generative AI, so you could build a chat if it's not there automatically. Movie Man, do you remember me? Afraid not. Thanks for being here, though. Okay, so the Vertex AI RAG engine is what it's calling a built-in tool. So here's Vertex AI search. Vertex AI search tool. Yeah, I think this is going to require that we use additional infrastructure from Google, like the RAG engine. If you already have a Vertex AI search data store, yeah, so I am not using that. I'm using my own Postgres. So this is like a thing that's specific to Google infrastructure. I'm sure this would work well, but I would prefer not to use it. So I'll say I want to use my own Postgres instance. Should I make a custom tool? Yes, you don't need to build a custom tool. So it's going to be the MCP toolbox for databases. Okay, so RAG via MCP. This is an interesting pattern. I'm tempted to try it out, but we will do this later. Let me actually save this chat. And I'll make an issue. Try out MCP approach. Adam, tried writing this comment on LinkedIn, but I guess it didn't come through. Yeah, the LinkedIn chat doesn't work well for some reason. I added a comment about unbounded queries tend to perform poorly, especially ones with no limit defined. Yep, that's true. There's only 175 records, so I don't care about, it doesn't bother me to do a full table scan. Postgres is actually pretty good at full table text scans, although we're using vector, so it should be even more efficient. But yeah, that's an interesting comment. If you were dealing with, I don't know what scale that would start to break down. Billions of rows, I think so. Millions, I'm not sure. Maybe you could get away with it. Do your own performance testing. But I think this illustrates the pattern anyway. Okay, so create match documents function is done. I hear good things about Claude Code and how it's better than Cursor. I hear that too. I'm skeptical though. The Cursor user experience is so good. And I have LLM fatigue from switching models over and over. Okay, so here we're instantiating a Supabase client. And we will use this client to generate embeddings for the user's query. Okay, so we're vectorizing the input prompt. And then we get to do this Supabase RPC. See, this is pretty clean, I think, instead of having to do the Google RAG stuff. Format and return results while searching the lore database. I love that it's called a lore database. So we're going to test it now. Okay. Let me first try the ADK web approach, and then we'll try our own UI. I'm in the wrong directory. Yep, so this is the database directory. Let me go to the backend directory and ADK web here. So the port is occupied. And the reason the port is occupied, I think, is because my Docker container is running. Let's see, maybe, I'm not sure if my UI is up. Let's see. Localhost 8000 goes to the dev UI. Oh, because it's still, yeah. It's still running over here, okay. I tried to spin up 2 instances of ADK web. My bad. Good, so now I can select the source folder. This is what I expect. So let me say roll a die. This is a regression test. Okay, so rolling a die still works, and now let's try the other tool. I'll say tell me about a few character classes in Aria's tail. So it triggered the RAG tool. I'm sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. All right, we triggered the tool. So I'll stage this file. This bit seems to be working well. And let's look at the Docker container logs. I'm not looking at the logs currently. Okay. Here is my Docker. Here's the database group. So one of these. I wonder if we can look at the log flare. So that'll be localhost 4000. Let's see. Nope, okay, so it seems like it's an internal port. 54327, I'll try that, 54327. I don't think that's gonna work. Oh wow, that worked. I'm actually surprised by that. Okay, so this is a thing that Supabase Docker container provides as opposed to attaching to the container directly. Let's see. Not initialized. So none of these log listeners are initialized. Okay, so I'll skip that approach. I need to figure out what the right container is. to listen to. We'll just ask, how can I listen to Supabase container logs? Maybe I'll give it a screenshot of this whole thing as well. I think I can just look here. Supabase DB database. Database system is shut down, never stopped. Init process is complete. So it didn't seem to do anything on the database. Whoa, okay. Replica region not found. Running migrations, Erlang closed. So this is the real-time database. It's just pinging. You see we have a bunch of these ping requests. All right, so I don't think it's that one. Not Logflare. I mean, I doubt it's Kong. We can check that though. Postgres REST. Could be this one, could be the storage API or the Edge runtime. Let's check this one. I'm not seeing the vector search request. At least it's not logged. A bunch of these are not needed. How about the storage API? Okay, this could be a thing. No, this is like storing like blob files. All right. So I'm just going to screen capture the whole thing and ask Gemini. It's one of these. Adam says Docker logs. Yeah, I need to know which containers though. So I can say Docker get pods maybe. Oh, that's Kuba control. Docker logs -f. I need to know which container. Docker ls. So it's suggesting I do this. So it's suggesting I go through npx basically. Supabase REST database, DB database, or Kong database. Okay, let me look at Kong then. I skipped over it. Yeah, it looks like it's making document like blob store requests. PS, not LS. Okay. So while Gemini is thinking, let me look up the Supabase CLI documentation. Let me look for logs. Supabase functions serve. Okay. I think this is launching a whole new server. Oh, P.S. I noticed your output is stuck in a restarting loop. So we triggered the tool again, and I see no additional logs. So that approach is not working. Let's see if the backend logs help the tool at all. So I think there's probably a problem here. So this is Supabase vector database logs. Indicates the specific container is having trouble communicating with the Docker service on your machine. So while there's an underlying issue with that one container, it should not affect the RAG tool. Okay. Well, let's start. Do I need to rebuild my backend? I don't think so, because I'm just using the ADK playground. Okay, so it seems to give a valid response, but it's not one that I like. So let me add a breakpoint here. It said, I'm sorry, but I couldn't find any relevant information about character classes, which surprises me. Okay, so now we should have hit a breakpoint. So here is results. Results is not defined, response. Okay. So given, I see, so I'm not getting any data. This is highly unexpected, by the way. I expect to get some data. Oh, you know what? No, I don't, because I reset the database and I didn't remigrate it. Yeah, okay. You're right, robot. You are right. Okay, so what I should do here, Python scripts ingest data, ingested successfully. This is not going to be fun for y'all because now I have to recreate the embeddings, which is going to take a bit. Maybe I can add a limit. So for doc and documents up to the record limit. Okay, that should be much faster. Cool. All right, so that wasn't too bad, right? I'll go ahead and stage this stuff. This feature, I'll call this Aria's tail rag to a whip. Okay. Please remove the breakpoint and try it again. So 80K web. Jira, hey, what's up? By the way, do I pronounce your name Jira like the ticket tool? G-I-R-A. I'm not sure. Sorry about that. And hello to one lurker on Twitch. Yeah, like a gear. Okay, got it. All right, so we will say roll a die for the regression check. Cool, we rolled a die, and I'll say tell me about Aria's tail. Aria's Tale features a variety of characters, a human spellcaster who leads Aria's guild, a celestial archer. And that was my time limit. All right, chat, we got it working. Remember, after you vectorize, you might need to load vectors for query. Okay, and the cool thing about this is we didn't need to use MCP, we didn't need to use Google RAG engine. We're just using Supabase. And you can do this locally. You don't even need to use the remote Supabase. Let me delete this breakpoint comment. And so the magic is this Supabase RPC, which is going to, after vectorizing into a float, so when we vectorize it, it becomes a float. It really just compares a distance, a float distance in vector space. So a bunch of buzzwords, but it's honestly not that hard. And now it's open source, so you can go check it out. One more reminder, this is Aria's Tail RAG.